All right, now we're going to talk about encapsulation. Encapsulation is kind of a fun topic. Again, can be a little bit confusing if you're new, but it's a really also a very important concept. So the main idea with encapsulation is we want to make our variables private. So we have private properties, and we'll interact with them through public methods. Okay, so public means we can access from the outside, but private means we're going to handle it on the inside. So this is specifically true, or particularly true, with variables. For example, how we've done it so far, this is not good practice, right? Let's just do name, for example. Okay, so we don't want the client to be able to just define variables however they want. What we want to do is make our variables private. Okay. Now, if we make it private, what's this all about, right? So now we can't define variables. So this is kind of the old way of doing it. Now we're going to do it the new way, which is with encapsulation. Okay, so we have a variable string, and after our constructors, so down here, we're going to have our getters and setters is what we're going to call them. So we have this variable string name. Okay, so we have string name that we want to allow the user to define the name. Okay, we don't want them to define the variable name outright like we did here. We want them to call a function that's going to define the name. So that function will be something like public, because we want to access it from the outside. Void, it's not going to return anything. And because the variable is called string, then we should say, or string name, then we should say set name. Okay. Then the user is going to pass some variable, we'll call it name. Okay. Now that name is going to be assigned to this name. So to do that, we say this dot name. This statement is referring to the name that belongs to the class. That's what this stands for. Equals the name that's being passed through this argument. Okay, so it might take a moment to kind of wrap your brain around this, because this is another kind of if it's new, it's kind of confusing. What's happening is the user is coming in, going to pass a variable, and we're setting that variable. We're going to put that into the variable that belongs to the class. So this is a local variable, right? Its existence is only within this method, but then we're setting the global variable, the class variable, or say the instance variable, equal to that local variable. Now that's available to us throughout the program. So now we want to say account1 dot set name, and we're going to say Roger Hugh. Okay, so we're not setting anything equal. We're just calling this method, passing a function. We don't know what implementation is going on in the back end, right? We just know we should call this method and pass this value, right? Now, if we want to access that value, then we should have another method where the client can actually get that value. So we want to do this as a public, right? So public is available to the outside. So if we want the client to receive something, we don't want void. We want this to be of the type of what we're receiving. So if they want to access the name is a string. So we're going to pass the string. And if they want to get name, then we want to call this function or method get name. Okay, and then we're just going to return the name. Now we should be able to say sysout account1 dot get name. Okay, now we can run this, and there we go. There's our Roger Hugh account. Okay, so encapsulation. So think of public API methods, right? So meaning there's a public method, we're going to pass an argument, right? So as a client, we don't know what's going on in this method, right? This is hidden, right? Encapsulation is all about hiding. So the implementation is just, hey, just give us the name. We're going to do whatever we want to do. For example, we could say name plus, we could concatenate this as, or say Mr., right? Mr. Right? And then now that's affecting the entire name. So in other words, once again, the user's just passing in the name, then we can do whatever we want with it, and then when they get that, we just have a public method that returns the value that they're looking for. So that's how encapsulation works. To do another example, let's do Social Security number. So first of all, we want to make it private. That's the first step. Then we want to say public. And actually, as a shortcut, let me show you. You can go to source, generate getters and setters. Okay. And then we want to do a getter and setter for SSN. You hit OK. Oops. I don't know where that put that. We want to put it right here. Let me do that again. So it's going to put it wherever your cursor is. So here's my cursor. I do source, generate getters and setters, SSN, hit OK. And there put our getters and setters, right? And no, I don't need to do any other coding because what I did was actually convention up here, and so it's kind of the way you do it. So now we can just say account 1 dot set SSN, and this is, oops, whatever Social Security number is, and then we're going to print the Social Security number is get SSN, and run this here. There we go. Okay, so again, I want you to see the intuition behind encapsulation and the idea. The implementation isn't that difficult. It might take a little bit to get your head around, but if you get the idea, then the implementation will work pretty simply. All we want to do is hide our variables inside the client class, then access them publicly, right, through methods. We have a get and a set method. So that's encapsulation, and again, we're kind of moving on through our object-oriented programming tutorial, and so stay with us, and we'll keep on going.